We have the latest on some key races as another election comes to an end. We will recap the results of some measures you need to know.
Plus, we're continuing to track the 12-acre fire that prompted evacuation warnings in Mount Shasta. We have the details on that fire and what's next for local authorities.
And today we're starting off on the cooler side, but we'll warm up and we'll see temperatures back above average for us with increasing clouds throughout the day. I'll have more details on your Wednesday coming up.
Live, local, late breaking. This is NewsWatch 12 this morning.
Good morning. The time is 6 a.m. on May 21st. Welcome to NewsWatch 12 this morning. I'm Damon Alvarado.
And I'm Carlos Murrieta. We first want to turn over to Storm Tracker 12 meteorologist Sarah Kress for a look at our Wednesday.
Our Wednesday is starting off on the cool side for us. It is pretty chilly across the region and skies are clear, so we're going to be dealing with a bit of sunshine for us in the first half of our day. Right now, 32 degrees in Klamath Falls, so definitely make sure you're dressing in layers for this morning because even areas over west side, we're into the lower 40s for us this morning. But looking out on radar, we just have a little bit of feedback, but that's nothing there. Clear skies for us. We're on the dry side for our Wednesday, but we are tracking our next system that'll be moving through. That's going to increase clouds for us today and bring the possibility for showers as we're working overnight tonight, but it's not looking like a washout. They'll likely be very isolated. But for today, take a look at your highs. Into Northern California will be into the 80s. Klamath Basin will be into the 70s as well as the Rogue Valley in the upper 70s. Along the coast, it'll be a little bit cooler into the 60s. Breezy throughout the day along the coast, light breezes inland, again picking up into this evening. So if you're looking to head outside over the next couple of days, today is going to remain on the drier side. We have the potential for those showers earlier on in our Thursday and maybe even some into your Friday, but it'll be more likely on the drier side as we're working our way through the rest of this week and especially into this weekend. But coming up in our next forecast, we'll take a closer look at what we can expect with this system tonight and when we can possibly see those showers into your Thursday.
The results are in from the Medford School Board election, and 3 seats now have newly elected members. Angela Zebakowski secured position number 1 on the Medford School Board with more than 65% of the votes. NewsWatch 12 was able to speak with her at her election night gathering before results came in. Zebakowski says one of her top goals is helping the board find common ground and stay focused on student success, especially as the new board prepares to hire a new superintendent.
I know that our schools matter more than ever. I know that local politics matter more than ever. And I was frustrated by feeling like I didn't have a voice in state and federal matters. So I wanted to step into a role where I can have a real impact on Medford kids and families.
In position 3, longtime board member Cynthia Wright was unseated by Eric Johnson. Wright told us before the results that her reasoning for running again was to provide consistency and to support the superintendent search process. And for position 2, Sandra Lanier McHenry had more than 66% of the vote. This new board will soon have the task of selecting the district's next superintendent while keeping a shared goal in sight, refocusing on the students.
Taking a look at a couple measures in Jackson County, 548 ballots were cast for Measure 15236, with 58% voting yes for a 5-year local option tax for general fire safety operations. The measure is a 5-year tax levy plan for Fire District 4 in Shady Cove. The measure would impose a 10-cent increase on the current levy that is set to expire on June 30th of 2026.
Measure 15237 also proposing a 5-year tax levy for Prospect Fire Protection. This measure will impose a levy of $1.39 for the next 5 years. Only 180 votes were cast for this ballot measure. More than 58% of the vote said yes for this local 5-year option.
In Curry County, voters have decided on a new 5-year tax levy to restore law enforcement staffing. And the voters said no to Measure 8117 in a 60-40 vote. Sheriff John Ward says there is no one left to patrol the roads, but some county leaders question the management and whether the funding plan is solid. Measure 8117 would have raised over $4 million a year, adding 5 patrol deputies, 2 dispatchers, and a sergeant.
When you call somebody for help, we want to be there. Right now, we're reactive, totally reactive. And I like to be more proactive, and I'd like to see them help us help them. by funding this levy.
I think it's a bit irresponsible to ask our taxpayers to approve this levy only because we don't know what it actually takes to fund the sheriff's office.
The commissioner expressed concern about the levy's effectiveness and potential financial burden on residents. Opponents argue that increased funding alone won't address underlying issues in law enforcement.
Taking a look at some measures in Klamath County, over 60% of voters voted yes for Measure 18137, which will dissolve end-to-end operations for the Midland Community Park District. But voters voted yes on Measure 18138, forming the Midland Community Park on a permanent tax rate of 25 cents per $1,000 of assessed property value.
And Measure 18139, which would form a public safety district in East Klamath County on an $89 tax per lot, about 79% of voters said no to this measure. Measure 18140, which is a new 5-year tax levy for operations and maintenance for the Rocky Point Fire and EMS, just over 50% of voters said no to this measure.
Voters voted for another tax levy for the Two Rivers North Road District. Almost 60% of voters said yes to Measure 18141. Now, for the latest election results on all these races and more, just head to kdrv.com and find the special election page. This morning, we have new information on the 12-acre fire in Mount Shasta. All evacuation warnings have been lifted, but the incident is highlighting larger concerns. Right now, the spring fire is 30% contained. CAL FIRE says suppression efforts are slow. They say it's because the area is difficult to access. The cause of the fire is under investigation, but authorities have a person of interest and a be on the lookout alert. Mount Shasta police are now seeking information on that person who was seen near Mount Shasta City Park.
We don't know if it is accidental or arson yet, because the start of the fire is undetermined, and that's why we're trying to make contact with him.
Police say to look out for a white adult male with a slender build and a scruffy beard. They also say he has a short, dark, curly hair and was seen wearing gray sweatpants without a shirt or shoes. The Mount Shasta police says if you see someone matching the description, do not try to approach them, but instead call the police. And Governor Tina Kotek stopped by Medford with a wide range of talks with local business leaders, touching on housing, education, and the region's role in Oregon's overall success. Governor Kotek met with the Medford Chamber of Commerce, covering housing, wildfire recovery, and low test scores. She says leaders are warning about job gaps and the long-term impact of struggling schools.
Embarrassing that we have schools where kids cannot read. Schools where only 20 or 30% of children are reading at third grade level when they reach third grade. That is unacceptable. I know we can do this. Districts around the state have made it happen. So I need every school district to be committed to that.
Kotek acknowledged the drop in academic performances across Oregon, and she says new legislation this session aims to connect school funding to student outcomes, especially reading and math.
Following up on the listening and learning session, the Grants Pass City Council is looking to Portland for guidance to their response to homelessness. The meeting was to define terminology used in House Bill 3115, which requires cities using public property for people experiencing homelessness. To enact restrictions that are objectively reasonable, the city answered community questions about the bill and what the city considers reasonable.
It just says that our regulations have to be objectively reasonable from the perspective of someone that is experiencing homelessness. So it's at this point just a case-by-case analysis and whether or not it's going to be reasonable under those particular circumstances.
Grants Pass compared its situation with Portland's homeless population and ordinances. They say that modeling could help them find a better fit for the Grants Pass area. And counselors say it was productive to learn what the community needs. New this morning, State Farm wants to raise property insurance rates in California again. The announcement comes 1 week after California's insurance commissioner approved the company's request to increase premiums. Starting in June, State Farm will raise premiums by 17% for California homeowners. If this latest request is granted, The company could push that figure as high as 30% by next year.
In an update, Oregon State Police have announced their clearing of the West Coast Game Park Safari after a 4-day search. They say 310 animals were seized and have been moved to accredited facilities. 3 animals were euthanized in the search, including a camel, a chicken, and a honey bear. OSP is now processing evidence gathered while the investigation is still continuing this morning.
And we are only 1 day away from the Storm Tracker 12 summer forecast, which is tomorrow at 6:30 p.m. We'll take a look at summer stories across the region, including what your summer could look like with summer recreation on the water in Curry County, Jackson County, and even events happening in Klamath and Siskiyou as well. We'll also take a closer look at your drought updates and what you can expect ahead for this summer. So make sure you're checking in tomorrow at 6:30 p.m. for Mia and Matt to break down more of your summer. But coming up in about 7 minutes, we'll go into a bit more details because we have a big weekend ahead with lots of plans, so make sure you're checking back in after the break.